Hi, I'm Jordan the Nerd of Gold, and yesterday I released a post about how I think it would have been interesting if The Boys had at least one legit supervillain during its time, just because I think The Boys has a bunch of interesting, creative people working on it, and I think it would have been really cool to see what they could have done if they had at least one legit supervillain in the show. Now, I thought I made it clear on what a legit supervillain is, but I guess from the comments I didn't, and or some of you are foolish enough not to watch the whole video before commenting. I don't know what it is, but to be clear, yes, I am aware that the Seven and Vought are evil. The show goes out of its way on every episode to make it clear that they are bad people that are not worth your empathy or sympathy. They are bad. The only real superhero in the show is Starlight. That is a person with a full costume, a superhero named Superpowers, who goes and does good deeds and uses her public persona to pursue good and a better tomorrow. That is the only real superhero within The Boys. But everyone else from the public in-universe perception is what we would call a bad guy. The regular citizens of America within the show don't know this because Vought does a very good job of presenting them as good people, as superheroes. But that means that these superheroes don't have their own rogues galleries. They don't have an arch supervillain that they go toe-to-toe with on a regular basis because Vought controls all the superheroes, and they just create rivalries between heroes and not give them a fake supervillain, like a heel in wrestling. There are people in the WWE and whatever other wrestling federation you want to think of that pretend to be bad people against the good wrestler. But Vought doesn't have that. That is not a thing that exists. And nor is there a legitimate person who Vought could not control, either through their psychological manipulation through their superhero system, like they do mini supers, or one of their mini legit prisons, such as the Woods, Elmira, or Red River, or I think there's another one I'm forgetting, but I'm sure they have actually more prisons throughout the world. It would make sense. They've been doing this for decades. There are literally thousands of supers, and you're telling me Vought is taking a gamble on each and every one of them. First off, on the baby not exploding. Second, that the baby grows up to be a person that they can manipulate or otherwise control in some fashion. Or third, that they is a person who doesn't become a person with a full costume, a supervillain name, and fights Vought, not because they are a good person, but because they are also a sadist that just Vought could not control. I don't understand why that was hard to understand in my first video, but if you've made it this far, congratulations, you have an attention span. So, I think it would have been really interesting to see Vought fight an actual supervillain, someone who is just powerful enough that they can get around the Seven, but who is still weak enough not to win in a direct confrontation against Homelander. I think that would have been an interesting video, or an interesting episode or subplot, anything to have there. Because again, I think the people who are working on The Boys are very creative and good people, and I think it would have been interesting to see what they would do with that idea. I don't think it needed to be a series-long thing. It could have just been part of season 2 or something and just call it done. I think it would have been interesting to see what they would have done with that idea. I don't think The Boys needs it because, again, everyone in that show is basically evil if they're not part of The Boys. So, it's not hard to understand my desire to want to see a legit supervillain in a world where there are thousands and thousands of people who have superpowers, and maybe Vought, the source of all the superpowers, could not control every single one, because again, they are gambling on these people being something that they can control by the time they are useful to Vought as a super that they can sell as a product. I don't think that was hard to understand.